like and subscribe. Non-Americans of Reddit, what's the weirdest thing an American has said to you? I live in the southern hemisphere. Talking to an American online in December, and I mentioned it was summer for me. She kept asking which month I was in, kept insisting it must be June, and couldn't seem to wrap her head around the idea that it was simultaneously December *A&D summer in the southern hemisphere. Canadian here. I was 7, and in Florida telling my new also 7-year-old friend about our money system. I told her we don't have $1 or $2 bills, they are coins, and called a loony and a toonie. She goes and asks her parents, and they told her I was lying. I was asked if France is part of the United Kingdom. When I tried explaining him what the United Kingdom is, he told me England is no longer part of the UK because of Brexit. You speak real good English for a foreigner. I'm British and she knew that. Edit, because a lot of people seem to think that no American could ever say this and mean it. It was a lovely, sweet, older woman who thought she was paying me a genuine compliment. We sat and chatted in her garden for about an hour as she plied me with her homemade lemonade and asked me about my life and what brought me to Washington State. I thanked her because she was saying something lovely, albeit weird, and we continued chatting. Wait, I'll have Ike? In Swedish. How long did you take you learn to use metric instead of normal measurements? He genuinely didn't understand that metric was a system we actually used every day. We weren't constantly having to mentally convert measurements to feet or pounds to understand how big they really were. When an American asked me what it's like to have an accent, they thought that they had no accent and their voice was default basically. Poking fun at me with France stereotypes. I'm not from France, my parents are not from France, and I've never been to France. My first language is French. That's enough for Americans to treat me like I'm from France. You speak French? Hon hon baguette croissant. Guy living in Congo. The typical stuff. Do you have cars/trees/dogs/ in Germany? Another favorite, is Hitler still alive? I swear on my mother's life that this happened. I was on a student exchange between my German school and a school in San Francisco in the late 90s. When the Americans came to visit us, we had a welcome party for them at a friend's place. That friend had a dog, and at some point he gave the dog a command in German. The dog obeyed, and one of the American kids asks how we managed to teach German to the dog. He was not joking either. He seemed convinced that all pets are somehow born with knowledge of the English language, but all other languages need to be taught to them. An Austrian friend and I were told about this magical thing they have in America called fireworks, and how we should go see it at least once in our lives. Had an African American assume I was also African American because I'm black. I had to explain to him that the ethnically specified title African American is only used to describe black people from America, not black people from other countries, and that black people from other countries are not specifically labeled by heritage, race, or ethnicity. Afterward I revealed to him that I'm actually Bahamian. Despite all that explaining, he still proceeded to ask, "Oh, so you're an *AFRICAN-BAHAMIAN** then?" I felt the vein on the side of my head twinge a little lol. I met an American tourist who was adamant that my country was a home-ruled territory under the US government. He said this during our nation's Independence Day. I am British, was traveling in the States. Got talking to a guy at a bar while we were waiting for service, and he recommended I try a pint of Guinness while in the US. He informed me they don't sell Guinness in the UK. I politely explained that they do indeed have Guinness in just about every pub in the UK. He disagreed, adding that he has never been himself, but his son-in-law went to London on business and told him so. I explained I had lived in the UK including London my whole life. He looked at me lost in thought for a few moments, and said, if they don't have Guinness there, and walked away. Are your parents Democrats or Republicans? A. have different political parties here, love. I once had real difficulty trying to get a staunch American Republican to understand that we don't have any major Republican parties. He eventually asked, so, how many Republicans do you have in Parliament? I answered, about 6, but they can't take their seats, because they refuse to swear an oath of allegiance to the Queen. I thought he was going to have a hemorrhage. I'd say there's a toss-up between Redditis England in London, AskReddit you still like, drive horses to get around in Europe, and a guy trying to smack talk on Sparks who, after I told him nobody cares, said AskReddit cares what you think? You're foreign. I said AskReddit are you? And he laughed, and said AskReddit retard, I am Ariano. They asked me if I spoke African. As a Brit, I had to bite my tongue when asked, do you celebrate Independence Day? Which one? Honestly, if Brits recognized the Independence Days of every country that's separated from them, they'd work like 1 day a week. I can't believe you would live in a country where you're living under the dictatorship of the Queen. I'm Canadian. When I was 6, I thought this too. I could see that logic if you're a little kid. I mean, you've heard of time zones, so month zones seems entirely plausible if you were 6. Also Canadian here, worked for AT&T. Where I worked in Windsor, I could see America. The number of questions about snow and igloos, whenever anyone found out, was too high. I swear I spent 15 minutes trying to convince a woman from Detroit that the crisscrossing lights in the sky came from Caesar's Windsor and that there is no snow here right now. It's July. You cannot blame them. Their weather maps stop at the border, and if they tune in any Canadian weather reports, they'll hear that the temperature is in the 30 years, while they're in the 80 years. This hurts so much. Maybe because Americans only really interact with metric, well, technically see, in science class. Actually there is a video on YouTube where Neil deGrasse Tyson explains that Americans already do use the metric system in their everyday lives, and probably don't even realize it. Yeah. We love our drugs. Thank God they're sold in metric. We gotta teach the kids somehow, right? You speak French? Hon hon baguette croissant. Guy living in Congo. Which one? Honestly, if Brits recognized the Independence Days of every country that's separated from them, they'd work like 1 day a week.